Good evening, everyone. How you doing, ladies and fellas? Welcome to the King Leo Show. I'm your host, King Leo. How's everyone doing tonight? Let's see, dude. I'm dealing with this up here in my unibrow, but so sorry. Good evening, everyone. How
Our
you
audio's
doing,
good.
ladies and fellas? Welcome to the King Leo Show. Audio's good. How's everyone doing tonight? Did you have a good MLK weekend, everyone? Did you have a good one? You better have had a good time. But yeah, don't mind this. I'm just dealing with some stupid skin. But all right, we'll be better by pretty soon. Pretty soon. Yeah. Let me make sure I have these. How's everyone doing? How you doing? 112. Thank you. I appreciate that. We have a bigger show tonight. How you doing, Audio Vibes? But before we continue, um, I have a bit of some sad news that my producer showed me that I think that we should look at before anything. Okay, we'll do the plugs afterwards because quite honestly, it did not please me to see this. Some people will say that it's not true, but I found it to be very sad. So let's get to the big screen so you guys can see some news that it really tore me up when I found out that this had happened. Okay, so as you guys know, as you guys know, Iran has been unstable recently, and there have been protests against the Iranian government. Okay. Um, how you doing, Bahari Dolindo? um, and it's very sad what's happened in Iran. You know, people are dead. But I think that the biggest loss we have is unfortunately this news that my producer told me about, which is that the Iranian regime killed 47-year-old protester Parviz Ben Dawood. He died in his parents' arms, demanding they kiss Netanyahu's ass on his behalf as his last dying wish. The media won't talk about this, and for anyone that doesn't know his actual name, this is Patrick Bet David. Patrick Bet David has sadly passed in Iran, protesting, his heart out, making sure that the Iranian regime is taken out. So it's unfortunate, he is one of our main guys here. So it's very sad. But the show goes on. I'm kidding. He's still alive. Don't worry. This is a great show. I love this one. This was very, very good. All right, everyone. We're gonna get into the show. Before that, let me show. No, we're wearing pants. No belt, but we're wearing pants, Bahari Dolindo. All right, I'm wearing pants. I wear the Gap 100% cotton pants. All right. How you doing, Mr. Elu? Let's get into it, dude. We have 2 new segments today. Okay. Let me explain this because we start with Schizo Watch normally, right? All right, Schizo Watch is a great segment and we're going to keep it, but Schizo Watch is about the things that they're putting out there to make you go schizo. And I realized that I was including stuff in Schizo Watch that didn't exactly fit the theme. So my producer and I were thinking about it, and what we decided to do is there's a new segment, and I'll play it. It will start with a new segment. How about that? And you guys let me know what you think of the intro.
The people are retarded.
So we have the Goyim have gone insane. And on this segment, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the behaviors of my fellow Goyim and how they have been affected by that on Schizo Watch. So let's get into the Goyim have gone insane. Let's watch. All right, let's start here with a very proud mother.
I mean, where the fuck should I really even start? I got hoes that I'm keeping in the dark. I got my niggas across the street living large. Thinking back to the fact that they dead. Thought my raps wasn't facts, so they sat with the bars. I got 2 phones, one need a charge. Yeah, they twins, I can tell they ass apart. I got big packs coming on the way. I got big stacks coming out of save. I got Lil Max with me, he the wave. It's a big gap between us in the game. In the next life, I'm trying to stay paid. When I die, put my money in the grave. When I die, put my money in the grave. I really gotta put a couple niggas in their place. Really just slap every nigga in a race. I really might tap this nigga on my face.
I don't know how you're a Democrat if you are a Democrat still. I'm not telling you to be a Republican. I don't know how anyone can still identify with this party, man. They just elected a Democratic governor. Her first acts were, because we're in the retard cycle. That's what we're in. We're in the retard cycle. Trump does something retarded, then the Democrats do something retarded. Everything was about how we need to protect trans, gay, minorities, and all this. And look, man, you can care about that stuff, but this is just insane. I mean, where is Bill Clinton? Where is Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton, you were evil, but this is insane, dude. Like, what are people doing? What do Democrats care about? Gas is $4 a gallon, and they're making videos about my trans son. These people, how are they still in this party? You lost on this. Two election cycles. The only one they have won was on Joe Biden saying that they were going to return everything to normal. That's not what's happening. That's not what he did, but that's what he said, okay? Everything here, it's just insanity, man. Like, what are they doing? What are these people doing? All right, let's continue. Here we have this one here. This one, the Goyim have gone insane for real here, dude. I don't understand how people are just out here recording. There was pocket watching, but now there's a poverty posting. And let's watch the TikTok plebeian. Let's see what the TikTok plebeian feels is a good idea to post.
Okay, so I'm at Sam's Club. I'm trying to buy cinnamon toast sticks for my kids. This is what my two little boys like to eat for breakfast. As you can see, I'm trying to pay. I hit EBT. Scanning. It's my EBT card. Swiping. I'm going to enter my PIN number. Okay. Says no eligible items found. We're sorry. No items in your transaction are EBT eligible. And as you can see, I only have French toast sticks for my two children. This is the kind of stuff that everybody's talking about on Facebook. This is me, Galena Wildman, real video here. As you can see. So now I'm going to have to pay cash out of pocket for French toast sticks because this is what my children like to eat. So that's $8.48 I'll have to take from my water bill budget. Thank you, Trump.
I'm not a huge RFK fan. I'm not. But when you, dude, this is, what are people eating? People will ingest garbage. Cinnamon French toast sticks by members. I'm sure if you read the ingredient label on this, it's garbage. It's full of garbage. How are people eating this stuff? They're eating garbage. And not only that, even worse, they're feeding it to their children, which would be bad enough. But then the government, for the first time in a long time, what they should do, honestly, is make it so you can't buy this with your credit card either. If you want to buy this, you should have to pay cash altogether. Altogether. Whether you're on EBT or not on EBT. But look at these people. They're begging for slop. They're just begging to eat garbage. Just, please give me more garbage. Yum, I love eating I love eating processed food. Oh, it's so good. I'm not Liver King. I'm not going to tell you to eat raw beef liver or raw milk because I'm not sure if that's true, okay? I drink lactate milk. But I'm definitely not picking up the cinnamon French toast sticks, especially this is the only thing my children like. This is the only thing my children like. It's the food industry. It's just that RFK tried to make it into this political thing. I think, not to get too Marxist here, I think it's a little economic here. I really do. And this is going to sound like the corporations, bro. There is no way that these corporations are not in on this whole grift, man. You feed this to your children and then they're addicted to poison. Then they get type 2 diabetes at age 10. They're obese. They're rolling around all obese. And then they have to go get fucking insulin shots or an amputation. And they bill it to everyone. What I don't get is how people will beg. Because you may not like Trump, okay? You may not like him, and that's fine. But when I went to the airport, when I was going to Buffalo, and I didn't have to take off my shoes, I was like, thank you, Trump. Thank you for actually doing something that people should. You know what the people behind me were doing who were liberals? They were angry that they didn't have to take their shoes off. They took them off to spite Trump. You're making your life hell, in hell.
We live in hell. We live in the gutter.
Because you want to live in hell. It's hell. You don't have to buy. If RFK says you can't use the $8 to buy the cinnamon French toast sticks, take it as a sign from God that maybe you shouldn't be eating that. Just insane. Insane what people want to eat. I'm not telling you to eat healthy even. But this stuff, dude, it pisses me off when Hispanics, which I am one, they have this thing where they're like, hot Cheetos, hot Cheetos, hot Cheetos. I have a conspiracy theory. I think the hot Cheetos thing, it's a lie, right? That they said a Mexican janitor invented it. I think that is one of the biological weapons that was used against Latin America. Okay. I think that the white man and all of his wisdom was like, we'll get them with this. We'll feed them fucking hot Cheetos. And then they'll eat it like a bunch of idiots still. And they did. And now Mexico's obese. And now this people will beg. It's Marx said, they'll sell you the rope the capitalists will sell you the rope so that we can hang them. No, the Goyim will beg for the poison to ingest in their body. Please it really is amazing to me that this is how we're living. This is insanity. All right, let's continue. Let's see how the street protests in this country are doing. Our very helpful street protests. This is really solving all of our problems.
He needs medical help. He needs mental health. Mental health. The bleeding is natural from Nazi ears, but he needs mental health.
Is this helping anyone in a detention center? Is this helping anyone in a detention center? People think they live in movies. This guy could have Hep C. He could have AIDS. He could have a host of diseases that spread through fluid. And people are just splitting heads everywhere. And by the way, I made fun of the right for this too. Yeah, viewers of the show know I make fun of everyone here. How is this helping anyone? How you are just exposing yourself to Hep C, to AIDS, to HIV, to any disease that transfers through liquid. To what? To help fucking people in detention centers? You can't help people in detention centers by splitting someone's head open. You can't. That's not going to work. It's not even cathartic violence. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Who is in this? At least SDS was, they were like, hey, are there people in the building? No. Okay. We're going to do a political statement and we're going to blow it up. I'm not saying you should do that. That's a bad idea too. But now it's like, oh yeah, we're going to split some guy's head open to free people from detention. What are you doing? This is so stupid. Don't get involved in this on either side. This is just stupid. You're going to expose yourself to diseases. That's all that's going to... Let's continue. They've lost their minds, folks. This is a little more lighthearted here. Here we can see how people are coping on the streets now. We had the Fent fold. We have this now. People post this kind of stuff and they're making fun, right? She looks so normal. She looks more normal talking to no one than most people look at the grocery store these days. Okay? This anti-junkie stuff, man. These are the transgressives of our time. I'm not telling you should do it, but she's in hell and she is having a grand old conversation with the wall. Have you tried to have a conversation with someone who is actually visible? Most of them are idiots nowadays. Most of them want to talk to you about retardation. Like this whole thing of filming, I really, and the evidence is there, dude. The junkieism is going up in the country, which is a sign of a declining society. But regardless, these people are in hell with us, and they have chosen another path. So let's continue. What else we got? We got this one. This one blew my mind, dude. Let's see why why the Ayatollah will never come down. Let's see the propaganda that the anti-Ayatollah people are doing. If I've learned anything in this past week, it's that Iran, dude, I thought the Cuban diaspora and the Venezuelan diaspora had issues in terms of expressing their political message. It seems like the Persians can't do this at all. Everything that they put out is further fortifying the people of the regime over there. I mean, what is the point of this kind of propaganda? You should be selling a positive vision. If the only differences you have, which is what I see a lot of them saying, like, oh, the hijab. Well, you can live in LA. You can live in LA. I'm not telling you that this is okay, that people are forced to wear the hijab. Okay. I'm not saying that's okay. All I'm saying is this propaganda is not effective, man. This is literally what's been posted since I was a kid on the internet. 1978 Iran, look at the beautiful woman. Brother, dude, that hasn't worked for you since 79, for 50 years, and you're still doing the same thing? What are we doing here? The Venezuelans changed, the Cubans changed. Everyone was like, we're not getting our results this way. But the Persians seem to keep doing it in the same exact way. All right, let's continue. We have we'll end with this one. We'll end with this one. Here we have from the other side. Okay, we were making fun of the lefties. Let's see here. I'll just play.
Hell no! Come and get some. Go back to Mexico, you little nigger. Come and get it. You did your good work. Get it up. Come and get the
Like I said, don't split some guy's head open. Oh, we're missing a light. Don't split a guy's head open because it's not going to get people out of a detention center. But secondly, why would you go up to a group of Chicanos and yell at them that they're N-words and start making shooting sounds? Why? Is it because I'm from Florida? This is all insane behavior. Here, if someone did this here, no one would do this here because you have a full right to engage and stand your ground. Let's see how it ends up.
I'm not getting a job. Oh my God. Shit out of you. I knocked you out cold, boy. Bro, give us the shit. I knocked you out down to Mexico. Give it to him. Holy. What?
This country is going insane. This country is going insane. Are Hispanics black now? Are we black? I'm not saying that in a negative sense, because if people are using the N-word on us, we always had spick. But now we go back to Mexico, you N-word. Why would you do this? People think, first of all, never fight on pavement. Never engage in a fight on pavement. You will fall, hit your head, and die. And for what? Is anyone getting deported by you yelling this? Is anyone getting deported by this? Same question I asked of the other people. Is anyone going to get deported because you yelled at some young Chicano guys, go back to Mexico, N-word, or are you just going to cause a scene? Are you going to cause a scene? I think every minority can relate to this, okay? Every minority can relate to this. When you're a kid and you're somewhere, that's a little bit more Anglo, your parents look over and you, don't embarrass me in front of these white people. That was a thing they would say. And now it's like, does everyone need this? Does everyone need to be told, hey, don't embarrass me in front of all of these white people, brown people, if you want to use that word, black people, Hispanic people? It's like people don't. All right, that's the end of the Goyim have gone insane.
The people are retarded.
All right, let's get to Schizo Watch then. So here we have Donald Trump's newest ad. The person here is claiming that it's a subtle endorsement of Marco Rubio because of the music. Let's see. Okay. I actually like the ad. I think it's a cool ad. Firstly, I would say I get that it's maybe a subtle endorsement of Marco Rubio because there is Spanish language music. However, I would say Daddy Yankee is Puerto Rican. If you've ever met a Cuban, you know how they feel about Puerto Ricans. So I'm not. If you've ever met a Dominican, you know how they feel about Puerto Ricans. If you met a Puerto Rican, you know how they feel about Cubans. So, it's not, I understand people are trying to put it together, but I think it's an interesting ad. I have to say, this promises kept thing, gas under $3 a gallon, it really is a sign of the times, man. Sign of the times of celebrating these achievements. And I'm not shitting on Trump. I'm glad that gas is down. I am glad that gas is down. That's a great thing. However, I will say this about the gas being down. This is like a third world achievement, dude. This is like something that, Bukele celebrated something like this during the pandemic. He was like, we got gas under $3, because they use the dollar there. And it's like, we're celebrating this in the U.S. now? The U.S. is the country celebrating gas prices. What are we going to do? Egg prices? And let me give you some wisdom, by the way. Some third world fruit picking, car fixing wisdom. I learned this from my mother. Whenever you see aliens on the news, the aliens are coming. Not like Jose, the illegal alien. I mean like aliens, like extraterrestrials. You should be wary, okay? In Venezuela in the 90s, they were always talking about these aliens that were coming, okay? Now, the economy wasn't doing too hot in the 90s. And what people started to realize is that every time the aliens were coming, what it actually meant is that the next week, egg prices were going up. So this was a distraction they would put out there. So whenever you see the aliens are coming, get ready to get destroyed at the supermarket, okay? The aliens are coming is code for that, all right? Let's continue. I see Ephra's here. Ephra, hats up. Ephra, we need a round of applause for Ephra. I don't have a round of applause one. Hang on. Well, what can we do? Air horns is for super chats. I can't. What do we want for Ephra? What do we want for Ephra? I'm sorry, Ephra. I don't have a sound for you. Ephra, I'm very, very proud of you. you have proven to me you're a genius because you predicted that Donald Trump would move on Greenland when I thought it was Iran on Friday. Ephra, everyone in the chat. Round of applause for Ephra. Ephra, I am very proud of you, Ephra. Ephra, I'm so proud of you. For real, you actually nailed it. You nailed it. I'm very proud. How you doing, Gateway Man? All right, that's my buddy out in Chicago. Let's continue. I'll see you next week, buddy. Let's see here. What else is happening on Schizo Watch? So Gavin Newsom and Ben Shapiro did a podcast, and then let's see what the propaganda that Newsom put out was.
About radically lowering the income tax rates in the state.
Yeah, I don't know if you like me.
I bet that Steve would run a vanity campaign in order to garner a few dollars and some more attention for himself. Sure, why not? It was great. It was great. I mean, Burbank was a great place to grow up. It was like kids playing in the street. I've been a big advocate of getting rid of the tariff since literally day one. I don't understand why we are attempting to make Greenland our 51st state. I think that they are in for a world of hurt right now in the midterms.
And that includes, by the way, not interfering in the independence of the Fed.
Yes.
Ben Shapiro, you're always welcome back home.
Thank you so much.
So I gotta say, I love our American psycho future president. I love him. I love him. I love him. And I gotta say, man, he's having issues. All right. He's not delivering how I thought he would. His campaign, why is he doing this sit down with Ben Shapiro? There's nothing to gain here. There's nothing to gain. But I do like using Charlie XCX. Great stuff, you know. If someone is bringing the joy, you know, again, I think the apple's rotten right to the core. You know, if joy, is this the only Democrat with some joy left in him? Some spunk? Embarrassing Ben Shapiro? It's just a little too late for that. It's been like a decade since that even mattered. But it's all right. It's obviously designed to make you go crazy because it's deceptively edited. If you watch the whole interview, you know, it's not really owning Ben Shapiro, which I wish he had done if he was going to do this. But, you know. I see Ephra says, thanks, I guess. Ephra, please don't say I guess. As soon as I saw the Greenland thing, I was like, God damn it. Ephra's a fucking genius. Never doubting Ephra again. Genius. Let's continue. We have here the Department of Agriculture put out this amazing ad. Let's watch.
Yeah, nice. One, two, three.
Milk.
Look right here. Right there. Look here. Nice. Nice.
Drink whole milk.
Yay.
Is this not the creepiest thing you've ever seen in your... I can't tell if this is AI or not.
Yeah, nice. One, two, three.
Milk.
Look right here. Right there.
Where is Jeffrey Epstein? Is this not the creepiest thing you've seen in your whole life? It's good to drink. I don't drink whole milk. I get reflux. This is the creepiest thing I've seen in my whole life. At least put out by the government. Nothing compares. Operation Northwoods, I spit on that. This is the creepiest thing I've ever seen. I can't say exactly why it's creepy, but it just makes me feel uncomfortable. This looks like JonBenet Ramsey, like a hostage video. Drink your milk. All right, that is some, for any old heads, bro. Like, you remember the Podesta paintings. I won't get into that on here, but all right. Let's continue. We have here Whitney Cummings, who, just like Sneeko, this is a genius when it comes to foreign policy. Let's see what she has to say here about Venezuela. Dude, these people are just driving you nuts.
Look, in terms of America, why do they have to intervene everywhere? I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate on that if you're one of those people, which is like, we have a pretty even track record, right? For every World War II, there's a Cuba. For every South Korea, there's an Iraq, right? For every Vietnam, there's an Afghanistan. Like, right? We're batting like 50-50 for intervening, right? I'm not going to say what I think is going to happen because I never feel like I have enough information to do so. But I do feel like when crazy people are in power, and Maduro's this dude's nuts. I'm big on non-intervention until there's a bully that can only be handled with a bigger bully. You know what I mean? I'm into bullying the bully. Like, I think we are so delusional about how much evil there is in the world. Okay? Sometimes you got to fight big evil with like a little evil. Look, in terms of America, why do they have to intervene everywhere? I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate on that if you're one of those people, which is like, we have a pretty even track record, right?
The Venezuela thing really brought out the brain trust, right? It really brought out the brain trust. Why would you speak on something that you have? She literally said, what was it? So, here it is. For every Vietnam, you have an Afghanistan. We're going to talk about Mark Carney today, dude. We need to stop. They need to tax these people out of existence. There's no way that you can get on there saying you have limited knowledge of the situation, getting events and dates wrong. And you are just, it's Radio Hutu, but it makes you retarded. You know, Radio Hutu was killing people. This is just, I'm going to make everyone stupid. I listened to the Whitney Cummings podcast last week, Water Cooler Talk. And, you know, she told me that for every Vietnam, we have an Afghanistan. And for that reason, I do believe that this intervention in Venezuela was a good idea. Please get the fuck away from me. You're listening to the Whitney Cummings podcast for geopolitical takes. Please get away from me. I don't want you near me. It's just, what are we doing? How are these people? And I've said it about Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, just commenting on stuff they have no idea about. What, dude? There was Central America used to have mala fama, like it was notorious amongst other Latinos as the people who couldn't say I don't know. You'd go up to like a Honduran guy and be like, "Hey, where's the hardware store?" And he'd say, "Oh, you turn right, and then you go down 3 blocks and you turn left," and you do it, and you end up at the ocean. Okay. This is not a stereotype anymore, but it was. And now in America, this is the new stereotype. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to talk anyway. Maybe we need a little less. Maybe a little less. Let's continue. Let's see Myron Gaines here. Dude, these college students, man. If you're in college, please don't go to this type of stuff ever. It's just brain rot, man. It's just brain rot.
You literally did a Nazi salute. You began this whole thing of saying you're a Nazi.
Dude, yes, brother. Dude.
What the fuck? Get this fucking Nazi off our campus. Dude, what the fuck? Do that again? Wait, do that again so we can take a picture of you. Put down your mask. Let's see your face. What are you afraid of? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wait, how many Nazis do we have here?
So it's like, bro.
What the hell?
Dude, I don't know if you realize you're at a Klan rally. So, anyway.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Are y'all hearing this?
See, look at him. He's all shocked. Oh, my God. Oh, God. Yeah, see, this is what not giving a fuck looks like.
No, this is why we should kill Nazis. Okay. Nazis deserve exactly what they get. Or actually just what they put in the world. So
interesting. Interesting how we don't call for violence for
we don't call for violence,
ideology.
But at the same time, we're literally calling for violence by being Nazis.
Okay. Whatever.
If you go to college, I can relate a little bit. I really can. You know, when you're in college, I got a scholarship. You know, it was a public institution, so it's not a big deal for my undergrad, right? So you go into college and you know, especially in my case, it was like, dude, I'm not paying for shit. This is fucking cool. You know, I'm having fun. But nowadays with student loans, you know, it being something that's commonly known is an issue that people have. People deal with this for the rest of their lives. Not financial advice, but I would tell you not to worry about it. But people worry about it. They go, "Oh, I have to pay these student loans." If you're paying, or even if you're not, college is like 20 G's a year, even at a public institution. It's like $20,000 a year. Okay? Why are you arguing with people on camera about whether they're Nazis or not Nazis? You are there to learn. You are there to become smarter. Okay? You are there to network. That's the main thing, to network. Okay, you are there to do things for your future. When you spend your time going around college events with controversial people, which, I mean, they're just farming clips, right? I mean, and that's smart. I'm not going to begrudge Myron Gaines for that. I'll begrudge him for ruining Miami, but that's another issue. When you're arguing with people doing Nazi salutes on the college campus, instead of, I don't know, figuring out how to use ChatGPT to build the next robot that's going to build the next F-35, then you're wasting your time and you should leave. Those are some of the best years physically of your life. Instead of arguing with Myron Gaines, you should, if you're going to spend the 20 G's, go to the Dominican Republic. Go live there for 20 G's. Join the Peace Corps. Do something interesting with your life. People are just wasting money. I never argued with anyone in a college debate. One time I did because I was trolling. And this evangelical guy was there and he was yelling about gay marriage and the people were angry at him. And so I was like, dude, everyone is stupid here. Let me yell something. And he was yelling at a couple of lesbians. And I started yelling at him, you're the lesbian, you know, because I thought that would diffuse the situation. I got a couple chuckles, but it's just a waste of time. You know, it's a waste of time. Why are you even debating this? Why are you debating this? It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your parents' money. It's a waste of everything. All right, that's it for Schizo Watch, man. Let's get to Canada. This is the best stuff. All right, so Canada. Dude, I'm very excited to cover this. I'm very excited. I've told you guys in the past, I have family in Canada that left Chile when Pinochet was in power, right? And what happens in Canada is it's a very interesting country. Americans don't think about it much. But in Canada, in their last election, they had Mark Carney, okay, become the prime minister. I always thought this guy was probably going to be one of the most fascinating people on the planet. He is very, very smart. Okay? He reminds me a lot, and for Americans, they won't know because I followed Canadian politics since I was a kid because my uncle lived there. He reminds me a lot of Stephen Harper, ironically. And Stephen Harper was a conservative who was of the same cut. He was not a populist, very elitist, very interesting when it came to his relationship with China. And Mark Carney is of a liberal bend, of course, but he's paving a path here that is probably, even if you disagree with it, one of the more interesting political paths that have ever been that has been paved in the 21st century. And he had a speech at Davos that I want to analyze because it was very, very enlightening. But before we get to that, I want to show you the bullet that Canada dodged, which was, I remember PBD in particular was shilling this guy, Pierre Poilievre. And I never liked this guy. He was running as the right-wing, anti-Trudeau. We're going to break up the cartel system in Canada. For those that don't know, Canada has a cartel system for every industry. Maple syrup is like this. Cartel does not mean drug trafficking for anyone that's not economically inclined. Cartel just means something where a few control the prices and the demand and the supply. Okay. And I never liked this guy. I didn't like Poilievre. I found him to be annoying. I did not like his smug attitude. And most importantly, and I can say it because I'm half Venezuelan, he's married to a Venezuelan woman. And I was like, dude, I'm out, bro. What is this? I'm all for Venezuelans getting ahead. I love Venezuela. I love Venezuelans. You know, a Venezuelan is the president of MIT. Very smart guy. You know, Venezuela invented the leprosy vaccine. Well, we're not. No, the second lady of Canada cannot be Venezuelan. It just can't be that way. It cannot be this way. It can't. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Okay. So let's look at some of the highlights of Mark Carney during this.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly
Give me an
you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological thing.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways, a lot of people
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why?
This is Vivek Ramaswamy plus. Sorry about that. This is like Vivek Ramaswamy had a baby with Ben Shapiro. This was going to be Canadian politics. Okay, I was not a fan of Trudeau myself, but it was going to be Canadian politics with this idiot just owning the liberal media. Okay, dude, I know they're annoying. You're not going to find me defending the liberal media. Okay? But what are we doing? This was so annoying to me. And people were based. He's so based. No, he's not. He's just smug. And people confuse smugness with wit. Being smug does not make you witty. And you don't even want a witty guy as your prime minister. You want a competent guy. All right, let's see another one of his great moments. This one made a lot of people that were more right-wing angry when this came out. So let's see what he had to say here.
So as you can imagine, it's a pretty big honor for a simple guy from the prairies to stand before you today.
Listen, man, we don't really talk about any of that kind of stuff here, But that to me, it's another one where you want, you don't do this. You don't do this. You don't go in front of the white people or the black people and say, I'm proud to stand here as your spick, as your wetback in chief. No. You don't do this. You don't do this. So I'm very glad he lost. Then over the weekend, we had a fascinating turn of events because this guy's out and Mark Carney is in. And I think Mark Carney's fascinating. Mark Carney has begun his pivot to Asia, his pivot to China. For those that have not been following, the United States has been messing with Canada for about a year and a half now. Okay, they put some tariffs in, then they took them off. They were tariffing the syrup, the milk. It's been economically rocky. But beyond that, what people are very in Canada annoyed about, and I can tell you firsthand because I was in Ontario and I talked to them, is this rhetoric of the 51st state coming out of Donald Trump. Now, we could say, that it's just them being sensitive, but I will say there is a deeper sociological reason why, which is that Canadians, and this is why I've always been more of a fan of the French Canadians and the Anglo-Canadians. Anglo-Canadians are a very insecure people, in my experience. Anglo-Canadians their identity is a negative one. It is based on not being American. And whenever you have someone with a negative identity and you start to try to attack them based on the basis of that negative identity, you will be American. They take offense to it. This is just something that happens. All right. So let's see Mark Carney, who has, by the way, this is why he's fascinating, dude. He had to give up 3 citizenships to become Prime Minister of Canada. He is the former head of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada. This is like Gavin Newsom with credentials. This is a guy who is very, very intelligent. And he seems to have had enough with Donald Trump. So let's see what he did here in regards to his China policy.
The United States, our relationship, this is no insight, is much more multifaceted, much deeper, much broader than it is with China. But yes, in terms of the way that our relationship has progressed in recent months with China, it is more predictable, and you see results coming from that.
Now, this is not surprising to anyone who has studied China, even at a cursory level. China is a very predictable, I wouldn't say reliable, but it's a very predictable ally. All right. Let's bring out the Xi Jinping plate for that. Okay. This guy right here, the Xi Jinping, he's very predictable. Okay. When you're one belt, one roading with him, because I saw it, dude. I saw this in Chile years ago. They had built the Confucius Institutes and stuff. China is a country that you're going to get what you pay for. All right. It's different than it was a few years ago. I remember back in the day, people used to say, oh, China, their quality is shoddy. China has some of the best engineers on the planet, some of the best craftsmanship on the planet. If you want to buy something, you're going to check China to see if they make it, and they make it pretty well. Okay? So China, I would say, is not reliable, but it's predictable. They're not going to betray you. They're not going to be knives out. China's not going to say that Canada must become a province of China. They are going to sell you things because their interest is largely to make money, in my opinion. Some people will disagree. They'll say that China actually wants to take over the world. I would ask you, what does taking the world actually mean? And people usually say, I don't know, man, they're going to control everything. And I go, what does that mean? Because taking over the world, to me, as bare minimum, you would expect the United States to be ejected from the United Nations Security Council. China is not positioned to do that. No one has said to do that. But that would be a real hampering on the United States. But China is a country whose interest, they just want to make some money. They want to make some money. That's my analysis of China. Disagree if you want. All right. What else did Mark Carney do? Well, here we have him actually visiting China. Let's watch here.
It's been 8 years since a Canadian Prime Minister visited China, and this is a relationship that has been distant and uncertain.
Let's start that over.
It's been 8 years since a Canadian Prime Minister visited China, and this is a relationship that has been distant and uncertain for nearly a decade. That has held back investment, it's stalled business growth, and cost Canadian workers good opportunities. And that's why Canada's new government began to recalibrate our relationship with China. Through periods of global tension and disruption, we've created more opportunities for our workers, businesses, and investors by working together. That's the opportunity before us now. More stability, more certainty, and prosperity on both sides of the Pacific. It's been...
So, as part of this policy, Canada is going to remove the 100% tariff they had on Chinese electric vehicles, which I'm very jealous of. I'm very jealous of that, dude. I've been in those Chinese EVs in Saudi Arabia. They're like $10,000. And the engineering is German. The engine is like Porsche. The transmission is Volkswagen. So you don't really have to worry about that. The interiors are Chinese. And of course, the quality may not be all the way there. But my producer was saying, and I'm sure he's right, that probably these Canadians are going to get some amazing warranties because China's going to pay for it. So they're probably going to have the best version of Chinese cars. Incredibly lucky. I was already jealous of them because for the Americans that don't know, Canada still imports Chinese guns. I know their gun laws are not as liberal as those of the United States, but they have fucking Norinco SKSs, Norinco Glock clones. They have the best guns. Because Chinese guns are really cool. They cost a lot of money because they were banned in the US probably like 20 years ago. And if you try to buy them now secondhand, they're very expensive because they're very, very good. So now China is going to have amazing cars and amazing guns. All right, let's continue. Yes, China makes guns, Mr. Elu. Dude, they make the best guns. China, dude, let me show you real quick. I'll show you some Chinese stuff, dude. China's guns, bro. Like, look at this. This is a Norinco, the company that did it. The reason they got banned in the U.S. is because some Chinese agent supposedly tried to sell an undercover some rocket propelled grenades or something. It's pretty ridiculous. The reason why it was banned, and now we have to buy American guns, and it's just where is this? Here we go. All right, so look at this here. Look at this here, bro. This is unbelievable to me. Look at these are Glock clones. They're literally exactly like a Glock. China makes these, and they're like $200, $300. Incredibly cheap handguns. They make great stuff. Look, that's a Glock. That's a Glock. That's what China makes. China makes amazing stuff. And the Canadians, in all their luck, get to have it. And we don't in America. All right. All right, you lucky Canucks. Let's continue. Let's see what he had to say here about the economic measures before we get to his Davos speech, which is very, very, very good. This is, here he's addressing, because he mentioned that there's a new world order.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what are the trading, what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership, potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU. Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that? All of these aspects, I mean, use a fancy word, like the architecture, the multilateral system that has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything. Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade, climate finance as another area, to move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity. You will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about, but the evolution of the global financial system, the role of the renminbi over time, the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important elements of how the system is going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily through the IMF, WTO, and other multilateral organizations, it is going to be coalitions that develop them, not for the world, but for subsectors.
This is very, very interesting. This is very Chilean, actually. For those of you that don't know, it reminds me a lot of the economic policy that Pinochet pursued. Pinochet, for those that don't know, a lot of people say he's a fascist. A lot of people say whatever. I wouldn't consider him a fascist. However, he was definitely a right-wing dictator. Despite this, he was actually very, very interesting because he did not cut off trade with China. He was being pressured to, and he didn't. He said the reason was that every country had a right to determine its own political system. He actually didn't even cut off trade with Cuba completely because he believed, despite their incursions into Chile, that they had a right to be communist if they wanted to be communist. Okay? This is very interesting. Chile is one of the countries with some of the most binational agreements. They don't really like working in this Mercosur WTO model in terms of multiple countries get together and decide on something. They like to work one-on-one. And this is a very good strategy. I mean, in my opinion, when you can set the terms evenly with the other country as opposed to having to have some sort of consensus. And this is something that has not been seen in a long time, this return to the binational agreement. The United States, the last multinational trade agreement that was floated but wasn't passed was what, the TPP? And that was an agreement of the United States with Vietnam, the Philippines, a whole bunch of countries to try to limit China's influence. This is a return to a technocratic, you can't even say it's left-wing or right-wing, technocratic policy, one of mutual respect, one of common agreement on certain things. And I mean, dude, Is this what the lefties protesting the WTO in the 90s wanted? I think it's closer to that vision than not. It is kind of cool when you can just set up your own contracts with a country instead of having to come together and figure some bullshit out altogether. It's a lot easier to do this. However, of course, it's very bad for American soft power. American soft power through the World Trade Organization is something that's very important. So there we see Carney's very technocratic Chicago boys approach. This is a banker, bro. This guy knows what he's talking about. He didn't just, here we can see the response of the removal of the tariffs from, this is Secretary Duffy on the electric vehicles.
I love my brothers and sisters to the north. I'm from northern Wisconsin. I'm not going to accuse them of making the smartest decisions all the time. I think they will live to regret the day they partner with China in bringing in their vehicles.
Now, I think that this is a very, very bad argument. I discussed this even with my dad. My dad, he's not very confident in Chinese manufacturing. And I was like, dude, Canada's going to let in Chinese cars. And he was like, these Chinese cars, bro, I've been in them. I don't like them. I like them, okay? But he doesn't like them. And then he was quiet for a bit. He said, but you know what? America makes garbage cars anyway. And this is because of several reasons: the chicken tax, cash for clunkers, what else? Fucking emission standards, the CAFE standards that Trump removed. American cars have been declining in quality for years. Do you know the new Toyota Tacoma, for any car people, the new Toyota Tacoma, brand new 2026 Toyota Tacoma, this is a truck, this is a Ford F-150, has a 4-cylinder engine. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what that means? Maybe you don't, because people don't really, I like cars. Not like a car guy, but I like the idea of cars. When you put a 4-cylinder engine on a truck, that means that you're going to have to put in cheap plastic crap on the interior so the weight can be kept low. All right. So this is something where the Canadians can go, well, dude, the American cars weren't much better anyways. They suck. Everyone knows the good cars are Japanese and they're not brought to America. The Toyota Hilux, famously, an amazing vehicle. I've been in a couple of those. You have to go to fucking Mexico to ride in one of those. You can't do that in America. All we have are crap cars in this country. People are buying, do you know how expensive it is to buy a 6-cylinder car? Because they're all from at least 2014. I've seen some from like 2019. And people are buying them. They're more expensive than the new cars because the new cars suck. There's no point in even buying a car anymore. Yeah, it's a turbo. How you doing, Full Hat? Yeah, it's a turbocharge. Yeah, the 4-cylinder engine with a turbo. It's a truck, Foil Hat. A truck should have 6 cylinders. What are you... Dude, you can't defend a 4-cylinder engine in a truck. You can't even defend it in the RAV4, Foil Hat. I don't care if it has turbo. Turbo is crap technology. All right, you want a V6 in your truck. I'm very passionate about the decline of the 6-cylinder engine in America. I'm sorry, but no, a 4-cylinder engine is not enough for a truck. It's not enough, Full Hat. It's not enough. The Chinese are not giving in to these. Dude, they're making electric cars because the emission standards won't let you make good cars anymore. So if we're going electric anyway, we should be going hydrogen or natural gas at least. But if we're going to go electric, the Chinese are at least making interesting stuff. All right. How you doing? I hate everything. Everything says I've heard mixed opinions on Chinese cars. Look, man, from the ones I've been in, the engineering is not Chinese. So you're good in terms of the engine and the transmission and all that. But the interior is Chinese and it can fall apart. So it is mixed, of course. But dude, if you're buying a car for $10,000, you don't even care, right? I mean, it's a $10,000 car that will last you 3 years. That's $3,333 a year. That's a fair deal in my mind. You know, with taxes, let's say it's $4,000 a year. That's a fair deal. It's cheaper than a lease. All right. He didn't just, and here we have Trump's reaction to this, which I thought was very diplomatic, very uncharacteristically diplomatic.
Mr. President, Prime Minister Carney is in China. Prime Minister Carney is in China.
How do you see the deals? Canada and China have just signed trade deals between the two partners.
Well, that's okay. That's what he should be doing. I mean, it's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that.
So Trump says it's good that they made a deal. I don't know if Trump secretly respects him because he's a deal maker himself, but, you know, it's interesting. And everything says, so less regulations. In China, dude, globally, outside of Europe and the United States, and particularly California, do you know why you have, anyone here that has a car that's newer, you have that stupid button to stop the on-off of the engine? That is because of the CAFE standards. And that shit is hell. You go into your car and you have to turn it off every single time because it kills the ignition and it kills the motor. And they mandated that because California mandated it first. And as goes California, goes the rest of the fucking country. They don't have that in Mexico. They don't have that in Saudi Arabia. They don't have that anywhere else except America and Europe. These little additions of regulation make your cars more inefficient and shittier. And so China, I'm sure they don't want to compete on the diesel or gas front because they're going to have to make a bunch of stupid cars for regulation outside of the country. They can make those for domestic consumption. But for the outside, they might as well make electric cars. Why not? They can move faster. They have more companies. Better than Tesla. All right, let's continue. So here we have him. This was very interesting to hear him say. For anyone that doesn't know, liquefied natural gas, LNG. I'm a very, very passionate fan of natural gas. I love natural gas. That sounds a little weird, but I love natural gas. If you've ever been to the Dominican Republic, dude, it's so cool. All their cars run on natural gas. Natural gas is a very cool fuel source, and it's becoming more important, especially LNG, liquefied natural gas, because you can transport a whole lot more of it on these very cool tankers. These tankers have, it's like these giant onions, 3 of them on each tanker. It's very cool. When I was in the Great Lakes area, I went to St. Catharines in Canada, and I asked a guy who was autistic about boats. You know how there's people that are autistic about trains? He was autistic about boats. And I was like, dude, you guys have these giant boats. These boats are so cool. Do you guys do liquefied natural gas yet? Because this is a huge market for the third world and Europe. Europe uses a lot of natural gas. The northeast of the United States too. And I was like, this is very cool because they have Calgary, which produces a lot of petroleum and natural gas by default. This is very, very cool. Have you guys started doing this? And he goes, yeah, we've had 1 or 2 ships that I've seen. And now Mark Carney has announced, because I'm always ahead of the trend, that Canada's going to do it. It looked perfect for it. Look at this. Look at this.
On the other hand, Canada is developing our oil and natural gas reserves, one of the world's largest, to be the lowest risk, lowest cost, and lowest carbon. Last June, we exported our first LNG shipment to Asia, and we're scaling up quickly, making major investments in streamlining approvals. By 2030, Canada will produce 50 million tons of LNG each year, all of which will be destined for Asian markets.
Very smart. Very smart. And the third world and the second world love natural gas, dude. They use it all the time. Especially in Canada where, look, they were leaving money on the table. If you're not aware, we've talked about Venezuelan petroleum on this show before. Canada's petroleum is just as bad. It's actually worse. It's very heavy crude, what they get out of Calgary. In Canada, they can't refine their own petroleum. They have to send it to the United States because only the US has the tech so far to refine this stuff. Okay, and it's very expensive to build these types of refineries and they pollute a lot. So Canada has a bunch of oil reserves. But what everyone else is going to use that's a byproduct of oil is natural gas. So it's very smart to not let this stuff go to waste. A lot of people let natural gas go to waste, dude. They go, it's worth nothing. It's like, what was the last natural gas price? It's spiking now, but for years it was $3, $4. It was super cheap. I was always like, dude, why don't you sell this shit to China and Latin America? You can make a shit ton of money. And Mark Carney has done that. Not only did he make a deal with China, here he is in Qatar, which is an American ally too, of course, despite being bombed by Israel, which was insane. And they put out the show for them. This is something you'd see for America. Very interesting. Here we see Mark Carney pulling up. Mark Carney with the sheikhs out here in Qatar. Dude, look at this guy. How tall is he? Let's give some cope to people like me, our 5'9" kings. Let's see how tall he is. 5'9". Dude, maybe I could be the Prime Minister of Canada. I can't be the president. But he's 5'9". I can actually do it. I can actually do it. We have a 5'9" leader, a real 5'9" leader, Mark Carney. And more reasons to love Mark Carney. He's 5'9". Every other country, you must be 6 foot, 6'3". I can be 5'9" and be Prime Minister of Canada. How about that? How about that? My God. For the 5'9" community, this is groundbreaking. Groundbreaking. Thank you, Mark Carney. Thank you. Thank you. I hate everything. Says, if only Canada used the unpopulated areas that no one lives in. Dude, that's the thing. I hope, because he is talking a lot about the environment still. And Canada needs to get rid of that shit, man. They have all of this undeveloped land. It's partially because of issues with the tribes. Canada has a dark history with the Native Americans. It's a lot of the environmental regulations, and they gotta loosen up. The minimum house for a house in Canada right now, the minimum price for a house is 1 million Canadian. It's like what, like 700 American? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They gotta loosen up on that, dude. They have whole areas with no houses. And they could build like cities too. There's opportunities for cities. You drive around Lake Ontario and you're like, why is there one Toronto? There should be 10 of them. So I really, really hope they do this. Now, we have to get to his Davos speech. I see people asking here about other heights. Let's look up other famous heights. Who are the 5'9" leaders? AMLO height. How tall is AMLO? He's 5'8". I could be president of Mexico. AMLO is 5'8". What? Lula, let's see how tall Lula is. No, he's not 6'8". No. We're talking about Luis Lula. How tall is Lula? 5'6". Bro. Can't be president of America. I guess I can be. Let me check Boric in Chile. How tall is Boric? Yeah, he's 5'11". Cocked. It's over for me, dude. It's over. I can't be president of Chile. All right. So we have the Davos meeting. Okay. Davos meeting. First, let's watch a little bit of President Macron of France, who wore these glasses because he says he has an injury. But then we want to watch Mark Carney's speech, which is very good.
China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe.
So, there's a pivot to Asia, buddy. It's happening. Macron is calling for the Chinese to invest in Europe. This is embarrassing to an extent. You have Norway right there. Norway invests a lot in Europe because they're rich. Right? They're rich. They have a great sovereign wealth fund, one of the oldest. They want China to do direct investment. But that was an interesting couch to say that they don't want them to just sell products which may be inferior to those of Europe. I'm not sure which products he could be referring to. Probably cars, okay? But in the sphere that I know about as a tobacco fan, when I was in Iceland, I spoke to a tobacconist about vapes because in Iceland, they have native vapes that are made in the EU. And he actually had them separate, the Chinese ones and the European ones. And he was like, listen, I'm not going to talk shit about China. They're very politically correct people. He was like, but I trust the EU ones more than the Chinese ones. So there's a pivot to Asia. Let's see Mark Carney's amazing address to Davos. We'll pause in between because this is spelling the whole game plan out. It's fascinating stuff. Fascinating. Let's watch. Make sure the volume is right.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry. that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the
Really quick. This idea that the rules-based international order, that the UN, that the IMF, that these organizations are over, that now people must respond. I think we have to say for sure that this has been triggered by Donald Trump. Okay? He's explicitly saying that you will not be saved by going along and getting along. In some ways, I'm not sure of his influence here, but I'm sure he had to be involved with the Danes not agreeing to sell Greenland immediately. Because the attitude that I assume they're reading from Donald Trump is that America is a hegemon. It's a country that is the most powerful in the world. It has sonic weapons. It has invisible planes. Go fuck yourself. All right. I still believe in America. But if you cuck, if you say, I will sell you Greenland just to avoid conflict, it does not end there. Okay? This is going to be a little crass, dude. But international relations, I'm not a realist. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a constructivist. What I am is of the school of thought that it's all grape. There are grapists and there are the graped. That's how it works. And right now, the United States is offering grape. And Europe is seeing that. And Canada is seeing that. And they're saying, look, man, you can grape. You can't take Greenland. That's a big grape. That's not okay. Because that's just how it works. This realism crap, this liberalism crap, this constructivism crap, it's all bullshit. At the end of the day, it's who has the guns and how do you counter them. That's it. That's it. Also, economics, which is the great counter. Everything says the Europeans have always been cucks. Aren't they still getting Russian oil or gas? They are. They're getting it through India. Russian oil and gas is being repackaged in India and sold to Europe for the most part. And I don't understand how Germany got rid of its nuclear reactors. France is good for the rest of time with their nuclear reactors. But I wouldn't be surprised if Carney's attitude is the new standard. If what he's saying is true, the rules-based international order is over, Germany can start those up again. They can start those up. Let's continue.
Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel.
Václav Havel, first president of the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's called now. He wrote this great essay. I recommend it to everyone. It's called Power of the Powerless. It's like 90 pages. Very, very, very good. It's a great essay for you to figure out how to avoid the traps when you are on the ropes. Because this was a man who was a dissident behind the Iron Curtain, and he figured something out. Very good essay.
Later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true.
This is a Bodrillardian, folks. This is a Bodrillardian. As I always tell everyone here, whether you're left wing, right wing, I don't care. Refuse to play the game. If the game is rigged, don't play it. All they have is a ritual that you can get sucked into. You can get sucked into the real. None of it is real. None of it. Do not get sucked into it. And here you hear it from former two-time world champion banker, current Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Mark Carney, are you watching the show? Are you a Bodrillardian as well? Telling people, do not play the game if it's designed for you to lose. Genius level. Genius level. Let's continue.
And its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window.
Now, what I would say about this part of the speech is if I'm a European or a Canadian, I would be pissed off right now. Carney is giving away the whole game. He's literally saying that Canada and Europe signed up to all of these multinational institutions like the United Nations, the Geneva Conventions, etc., the IMF, the World Bank, knowing that they would get screwed, that their populations would get screwed, that this was not a perfect system and it did not do what it said it would do. So you're admitting, and this is a very powerful admission, that the world as people knew it was a lie, that it was not the way you said it worked. And if you're saying that, and you're a Canadian dude, that you're 50 and you lived under this fiction for 75% of your life, I'd be somewhat pissed. I would be somewhat pissed. This is very de Gaulle, but de Gaulle had more balls because de Gaulle resisted Atlanticism. De Gaulle was the president of France, very famous general from World War II. First president of France in the Third Republic. I believe the Third Republic. Or the Fourth Republic. I don't remember. He pulled France out of NATO because he did not want an Atlanticist system. So he has more balls because he did at the time. Whether you agree or disagree, he did at the time. But Carney's saying here that the whole thing has been a sham. The whole system has been a sham. And that people, their populations, he's a banker, he's been in this system forever, are suffering because of the system that they willingly signed up for. I'd be a little pissed. I would be a little pissed. And further, I would add this. A great wizard, Adam Curtis, the documentarian, he said, you have to be careful when you open a box. Because when you open a box with forces that you don't understand and you don't know where they'll lead to. This is very technocratic. It's very beautiful rhetoric. But behind it are the words and attitudes that led to the First World War, in my opinion. These are the same words and attitudes. Maybe even the Second World War. They're just fluffed up. They're nice. But this, you don't know where it goes. When you say it's over, we were screwed the whole time. Doesn't that remind you of how countries were feeling in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars of World War I? I hate everything says Larry Fink vibes. Well, he's a banker. He's a banker. He's a banker.
We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options.
So here we have, it's interesting because there is the criticism of the tariff as a tool, but the outcome is the same, what is desired. A country that can feed and fuel itself. This is why this stuff gets out of hand really quick. This is exactly what Donald Trump said the United States should do. His method, tariffs. But here we have a banker telling us that binational relations and resisting the United States is the same, a method, a different method to achieve the same goals. This is World War I talk, dude. This is not the talk of a stable world. We must fuel. Globalism is over, dude. When they're talking like this at the WEF in Davos, you should take the hint. Maybe not in the next 10 years, but the transition is going to start happening. Globalism is not going to exist. People are getting much more comfortable saying, hey, we need to have a manufacturing base. Comparative advantage is over. Bill Clinton is the only one that could stop this, and I don't know where he is. But it's pretty interesting. And the thing is, this rhetoric is also very appealing to, I'd say, like opposition groups. Because I hate everything says that all the time. And you'll hear this from a lot of Latinos. What the fuck is the UN for? UN hasn't done anything for me. The UN sucks. I think the only country that likes the UN is probably Somaliland. Because it just recognized them. So attacking the UN from the technocratic neoliberal left with right-wing characteristics is really something. It's really something.
When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interests, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. This room knows this is classic risk management. Risk management comes at a price. But that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentations. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic.
I'm glad he dropped the realism. If I have to hear someone else mention realism, I hate realism. I hate realpolitik. I think they're stupid words. Pragmatic and principled. This is sounding a lot also, if you guys aren't aware of him, man. And we've played him here on the show before. Like Eric Lee, who's a Chinese propagandist, but he's worth listening to. Propaganda's fine, right? Propaganda, you learn stuff watching propaganda. Eric Lee has always, his biggest contention is that China is a pragmatic country, and he is very proud of its peaceful rise. Not a bullet fired in a second world economy, achieved in 20 years. Everyone is becoming Chinese. This is what's happening now. They are pursuing a Chinese approach of pragmatism, of Canadian capitalism with Chinese characteristics. We will be pragmatic. That is one of the better things you can hear. I don't know what the effects of this will be, but at least in the United States, but it would be interesting if this led to a more pragmatic approach for the United States as well. Probably not under Trump, but in the future, it'd be interesting. Maybe we could stop making cars. American cars are so bad. I don't know who still enjoys buying a Chrysler or a Ford. Maybe we could just import the good Japanese cars because we're pragmatic like that and take the tariffs off and make them cheaper. What are we still building these Fords for? Cops? What are we doing this for? Dodge Chargers and Ford Crown Victorias for cops. Ford, Chevy, it's all garbage. Well, the Malibu's okay. The Fusion was okay a few years ago. But let's continue.
Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating.
Legendary quotes of the past couple months. James Fishback, if it were a free market, there would be a slave auction outside. We take the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Legendary quote. Put that on the epitaph. Legendary quote. Legendary. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Our relationships, so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence, given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next.
And I like that he's saying that it's not going to be easy, but I want to respond here because I see some chat. The Crown Vic is a classic, Spring. I love the Crown Vic because it's an 8-cylinder engine. And you can't get that anymore. The Crown Vic was a great car. I completely agree. But we don't make cars like the Crown Vic anymore. The Crown Vic is a great car. I'm in total agreement. I love the Crown Victoria. I love it. But you can't buy it anymore. And all you can buy is 4-cylinder trash. That was a great 8-cylinder car, dude. The Crown Victoria is a great car. Completely agree. And the Chrysler 300 It was good like 10 years ago. It's not good anymore.
And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength.
I'd also add here really quick, what's interesting here is the real loser in a lot of ways is Jimmy Carter. His whole vision has been completely repudiated, first from the right by Trump, or maybe George Bush, but not really, by Trump, and on the left by Mark Carney here. This idea of a human rights-focused trade policy, a human rights-focused international policy is on the outs, dude. No one cares about this stuff anymore. If the lefties are saying it too, and I get it, they're not Marxists, they're not DSA, but this is the leftist institution. And that means that the Jimmy Carter vision of human rights and the whole thing is gone. And I mean, that means that there's probably going to be a lot more oppressive regimes. And maybe you trade with North Korea. But maybe it's more economically productive.
We are building that strength at home. Since my government took office, we have cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, and business investment. We have removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. We are fast-tracking $1 trillion of investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, new trade corridors, and beyond. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade, and we're doing so in ways that build our domestic industries. And we are rapidly diversifying abroad. We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defence Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. The past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar. We're negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. We're doing something else. To help solve global problems, we're pursuing variable geometry. In other words, different coalitions for different issues based on common values and interests. So on Ukraine, we're a core member of the Coalition of the Willing and one of the largest per capita contributors to its defense and security. On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future.
Was Greenland the straw that broke the camel's back? Was that it? Because this speech is second world countries of the world unite. That is what this speech is. It's a very pragmatic third worldism was a movement of like the third world can rise if they all work together. Obviously doomed to failure from the start. All right. But this second world countries of the world unite. If we're going to put America as probably one of the only first world countries in the world, second world countries of the world unite is really, really pragmatic. And it is pretty scary, man. It's scary to think about that this whole era, this whole world that you were brought up in is completely different now. And Greenland broke the camel's back, but that's just it. I see 112 said, do you think the common man likes Carney? The common man will hate his voice, in my opinion. But the thing is, 112, and why it reminds me of Stephen Harper, is he doesn't even care about that. He doesn't want to be liked like Trudeau or like Pierre Poilievre. This is a non-populist man. I'm sure this guy would cross the street if a commoner tried to get close to him. That's not his concern. It's not his concern. And Ephra says, I don't think the problem is that no one cares anymore. I think the system is breaking. I think there needs to be some type of mediation for it to work, but again, is breaking. Ephra, you're right. The system is breaking. And I saw you mention earlier financialization. Financialization was a huge reason. This created a bunch of domestic instability in countries across the world. Immigration also played a huge role in dissatisfaction across the world. And it's going to be very difficult to put this back together, Ephra. I do think that if this is, I don't think this is a bluff. But if some technocrats in the United States actually listen to this, they could negotiate a better world order that does not lead to this, because this is like World War I talk. That's why I'm kind of hesitant to say, oh, this is good for the world. But I do agree, Ephra, the system was breaking. And as a student of Nietzsche, that which is falling must be pushed. And if it was breaking and Greenland finally pushed it down, That's the way of the world. However, I agree with your concern. Like this is not a bright world looking forward on the international level. On a domestic level, for several countries, it'll be cool. And everything says tinfoil hat here, but there's something in Greenland that everyone wants. My producer read that apparently a big draw for Greenland is that there's a huge donor to the Trump campaign who wants mineral rights over there, but he doesn't want to deal with the Danish legal and tax system in order to do it. Tinfoil hat, we're not sure, but he said it.
Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic-Baltic 8, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground, boots on the ice. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. On plurilateral trade, we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, which would create a new trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. On critical minerals, we're forming buyers' clubs anchored in the G7 so that the world can diversify away from concentrated supply. And on AI, we're cooperating with like-minded democracies to ensure that we won't ultimately be forced to choose between hegemons and hyperscalers. This is not naive multilateralism, nor is it relying on their institutions. It's building coalitions that work, issues by issue, with partners who share enough common ground to act together.
And I would also add, this is also reminiscent of Hugo Chavez, but it's a very technocratic way of doing it. Hugo Chavez, people probably don't know, but he had a very similar vision for Latin America and the Caribbean. He wanted to create new institutions that would result in a pivot away from the United States and a pivot internal. One of these that he created was ALBA. ALBA was a multinational institution that included St. Kitts and Nevis, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, a couple other island countries. I can't remember if Grenada was in it or not. But it was a complete and total failure because it was run by idiots, obviously. But this man's a banker. So this is not Hugo Chavez here. This is a banker. This is someone who actually knows what he's talking about.
In some cases, this will be the vast majority of nations. What it's doing is creating a dense web of connections across trade, investment, culture, on which we can draw for future challenges and opportunities. I argue the middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms.
Respecting the invisible planes and the sonic weapons. You got to respect it.
Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is: a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window. It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion. That's building a strong domestic economy. It should be every government's immediate priority. And diversification internationally is not just economic prudence, it's a material foundation for honest foreign policy, because countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation. So Canada. Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world. Our pension funds are amongst the world's largest and most sophisticated investors. In other words, we have capital, talent. We also have a government with immense fiscal capacity to act decisively. And we have the values to which many others aspire. Canada is a pluralistic society that works. Our public square is loud, diverse, and free. Canadians remain committed to sustainability. We are a stable and reliable partner in a world that is anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term. And we have something else. We have a recognition of what's happening and a determination to act accordingly. We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Another great quote, nostalgia is not a strategy. Ooh, who wrote this speech? If it was him, I'm very impressed.
But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and a most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power. But we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
So pretty ballsy speech. I will say it's not unusual from Canada, but if I were European, I would be embarrassed. The reason I say it's not unusual is Canada, despite U.S. protests, is a country that kept trade with Cuba after 1959. They still trade with Cuba to this day. Okay, there's no embargo on Cuba from Canada. They defied their southern neighbor who had missiles pointed at them from Cuba and continue to trade with them. It's not unusual behavior for Canadians. They are very defiant when it comes to some international politics. However, as a European, if you're a European, I would be very embarrassed because you are the people who started this whole attitude. This was Charles de Gaulle. This was Gaullism. This was Chirac. And every leader in Europe is completely cooked. So they can't even say stuff like this. Will Canada implement any of this? Well, it seems like they already are. And I would say to the Americans, which is most of the audience, this is a time that we should be, I don't think the dollar reserve currency hegemony is going away anytime soon. Probably within the next 50 years, but not anytime soon. However, if more countries follow along, if Canada, which is the neighbor to the north, is able to pull this off with America to its south, with the closest relationship to America geographically and maybe even politically, then a lot of other people are going to start getting uppity in Europe, in Asia. And they're going to go, why do we need to be subjected to the United States? Why are we subjected to the petrodollar? Maybe we can enjoy the benefits of the petrodollar of the United States reserve currency without actually having to completely cuck to the United States every single time. Globalism is over. Maybe I can even start accepting payments in RMB. Maybe I can carve my own way forward. And if that happens, the United States still has military dominance, absolutely, technological dominance. But it would be time to start looking and say, hey, man, you know where all the gold gold prices are shooting up. You know why that's happening? Individuals and institutions are loading up on gold, and they're not just keeping it in the US and Canada and Europe. They are moving it all to Singapore. They're moving it to countries that are like Singapore and Switzerland, okay, that will not confiscate their assets, that will keep their assets there for an eventual possible downfall. This Chinese man, dude, this Chinese man may be challenging the influence of the United States, not even through his own actions, just through the actions of Donald Trump. And I think it's just Greenland, dude. I don't even think they care about Venezuela. I think they're pissed about the tariffs, Ukraine, and Greenland. And they wanted that to have some sort of, you can't even blame these countries entirely. They're dealing with a schizophrenic government in the sense of you had Barack Obama come in and say, oh, well, everybody, you all gotta stop polluting. You gotta, I don't know, embrace the Arab Spring. You know, Italy, you gotta let us use your bases to go bomb Gaddafi. We are all friends here. You know, climate change is. And then you had Donald Trump come in and say they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, tariffs for everyone. And then you had 4 years of a fake president, Joe Biden, who did nothing, but he was funding Ukraine at least. And then we had, we're going to stop all the funding for Ukraine. We're going to take Greenland. We're going to take Panama. We're going to take Canada. And that kind of schizophrenia probably drove a lot of these people nuts. The political system got increasingly crazier and crazier for these middle powers. They don't really know how to deal with America. And America could end up losing because of this. However, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to fucking cry about it? You're going to be a little bitch? You're going to fucking nut up, dude. You're gonna nut up, okay? There's still work to be done, okay? But we don't want to end on a downer. I see I had everything said. Why does everyone in the WEF always give some NWO or nihilist speech? And they should invest into Eric Adams' cryptocurrency. Look, I understand it's a depressing speech. It could be depressing. People could take it as a bluff. However, don't worry. We're going to go to a new segment, as I announced. The title card's not perfect. We're going to end on a positive note, at least a fun note, maybe not positive. So we're going to talk about Nick Fuentes and his night out in Miami. And as part of this, we're going to make it part of this segment that's called the Bodrillard Zone. Okay. And here we are going to give you Baudrillardian strategies and wisdom that you can use in your life and see how we can learn from other people's mistakes. So let's watch.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Bodrillard Zone.
All right, so we're here. First, let's catch up with what happened. Okay? You guys have seen the video. I can't play the audio because I'll get banned on YouTube. Okay? But here you can see Nick Fuentes. Hang on. We got no audio on there. With Sneeko, Clavicular, Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, the Fresh and Fit guys vibing out at Van Combe in Miami to the very famous Kanye song N-word HH. Okay, so it's a well-known song. They did this. They played the song in their limousine and then they played it at the club. This resulted in a lot of anger from the Jewish community. Okay. Here we see, firstly, let's lead with Dave Rubin, who said, we had real men like Charlie Kirk, Jordan Peterson, Dennis Prager, and Scott Adams. This band of closeted Nazi trolls. Dave Rubin, who are you to be calling people closeted? Dave Rubin, you've told your coming out story. I remember it. Maybe people forgot it. Dave Rubin came out on 9/11, and then he saw the towers fall and was like, is that the reason the towers fell? So Dave Rubin, let's chill out, okay? This band of closeted Nazi trolls are trying to burn down everything they believed in. Any conservative who can't call this out should be ignored completely or mocked into oblivion. Okay? All right. Now, here we go. The nightclub had to put out a statement, Vendome. We are aware of a video circulating online from one of our venues that includes content and imagery that are deeply offensive and unacceptable. They fired a couple people because the song was played. Okay, so this is a big deal for people who work there. We had Dave Portnoy who reacted to it. All right, let's see what Dave Portnoy had to say. I'm not a fan of Dave Portnoy. I hate Dave Portnoy.
I'm gonna fucking burn these people to the ground, their families, everything. Literally could have cooked an egg on my head. That's how much steam and heat I had come out of my ears. I've had more hate, more anti-Semitism in the last year and a half than I've ever had doing it. And whether people like Kanye, the UFC guy, it's like mainstream lunatics.
Okay, so we see Dave Portnoy has become a lot more calm. He's only saying he's going to destroy them. He's obviously very good at dealing with this kind of issue. Let's watch the actual local news coverage from my Miami station, Channel 7, what they had to say about it.
People laughing and celebrating Heil Hitler and Adolf Hitler. I cannot believe we're even seeing this and witnessing in Miami Beach.
A Miami Beach nightclub catching heat, accused of celebrating hate with a song about Hitler.
Absolute disgust. Disgusted, horrified.
City leaders reacting to videos making the rounds on social media featuring the Kanye West song with the lyrics Heil Hitler over and over again. The same men seen in the club, known as controversial influencers, are also in a video from a limo. In that one, they're singing, and one of them is performing a Nazi salute.
To have people in our city celebrating this. Animals.
This is obviously not welcome in Miami Beach. It should not be welcome anywhere in the world.
And by the way, I spoke to other club operators. They are not welcome in their club. How they got into this club, open arms, I want to know how.
The videos are from Saturday night. This one inside the club Vendome at 743 Washington Avenue. The club releasing a statement on social media that reads in part, "We want to be unequivocally clear. Vendome and our hospitality group do not condone anti-Semitism, hate speech, or prejudice of any kind." It goes on to state, "We are deeply disturbed by the harm caused by this incident and the circulation of this footage." The Post explains the business is looking into safeguards and procedures to make sure this doesn't happen again. As for the men in the video celebrating the song, the mayor has this message.
It's disgusting, it's shameful, and you are not welcome in Miami Beach.
So this was in Miami Beach, okay? Now, I remember we had some idiot here who was asking me last time, why aren't you out getting bitches? Well, first, I'm going to comment this before we get to the real Bodrillardian zone here, is this. I didn't see anyone address this. This nightclub looks like shit, okay? It looks terrible, all right? And I'm from Miami, so I can tell you, the nightclubs here suck. I've been saying this for years. And people go, oh, King Leo, you're just a downer. Oh, King Leo, you're just a baby, bro. These clubs are lit, bro. I love space. No, they suck. They are the worst nightclubs. They suck, okay? I've been to nightclubs in Italy. I've been to nightclubs in Palm Beach. I've been to nightclubs in New York. I've been to nightclubs in LA. I've been to nightclubs in San Francisco. And they're better than anything in Miami. These guys all got ripped off, okay? You're paying $25 for a watered down fucking Red Bull vodka, okay? It's a scam, okay? This is a scam. Do not party at Miami nightclubs. They suck, all right? But what's important here is this, is that the main reaction that I saw on Twitter was something like Dave Rubin's. It was a lot of people saying, this is cringe. This is not cool. Nick Fuentes looks uncomfortable. He's bored. He looks like a nerd. All right. Now, what we have to learn here is this, and this is the rule, okay? The reason why this even happened to begin with, we're not talking about the politics of it. We're talking about the event itself. The reason that people can say, oh, this is cringe. Oh, this is stupid. Saw a lot of people. We're going to watch PBD in a little bit here, talking to Andrew Tate. The reason that this all happened is because they made it more real than it actually was. Okay. Never make things more real. Rule for life from Bodrillard. Okay. Never make things more real. What do I mean by that? Another character who was here this night is Andrew Tate, who I previously mentioned. Andrew Tate, everyone thought that Andrew Tate was this badass guy. Andrew Tate can beat anyone's ass. And then he decided to do a fight. And he lost. Okay? And when he lost, as the kids call it, his aura. But more importantly, he made things real. When Andrew Tate hadn't fought anyone, he was a kickboxing champion. He was a tough-looking guy. And now we all know that, would you fight Andrew Tate? I probably would at this point. I mean, I don't fight. I'm from Florida. But if it came down to it, I think I could take Andrew Tate because he did not perform. What happened here is, imagine if they had just said, we're going to the nightclub and we're going to have a great time. And they still did all this, and maybe they didn't have a good time. The impression left to most people would not be like cringe or this isn't cool. They would say, I bet they had a great time. But they decided to make it real. And this is something that's happening. Look, I think especially in Nick's case, it's incredibly excusable. Because Nick is despite our differences and everything, he's a tasteful streamer. He's a guy who streams from his home or studio. He's a guy that's his natural environment, okay? And he was brought along by a couple of streamers like Sneeko and Clavicular, whose whole streaming thing is to be in real life. And someone who is not streaming like that is going to show up in real life and not know how to behave accordingly on camera, okay? Or maybe they just don't know how to behave accordingly because they haven't been in that experience before. These guys who started to stream it are the ones who are responsible for the accusations of this is cringe, of this is not cool, because they tried to make it real. And let's see how Andrew Tate completely cucked here. And by the way, before we do that, I want to show you a clip from The Prestige, which is a great Christopher Nolan movie, where it actually shows you what I'm saying, okay? This is a movie about a magician, and he explains that a magician, and we're all magicians here, folks. Every Bodrillardian is a magician, does not reveal his secret. And why doesn't he reveal it? Well, let's watch the master explain it.
Are you watching closely? Look closer. Never show anyone. They'll beg you and they'll flatter you for the secret, but as soon as you give it up, you'll be nothing to them. You understand? Nothing. The secret impresses no one. The trick you use it for is everything.
That is so true. As an amateur magician myself, I love magic, dude. I found a magician to teach me after searching for a few months. I love magic. The reason you never reveal the method is because people will hate you for it. Even if they can't replicate it, they will hate you for it. So when you go out to the nightclub and you're on camera, you are making things more real. And in making them real, people can look at it and go, I hate you now because I know what it is. I know. You saw those images of Andrew Tate. Let's look at that real quick. Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes having that huge meeting. Let's see it here. At the party mansion, okay? Let's see it here. Where is it? Here we go. All right, we can see it here. This is Clavicular and Tristan Tate. We can see them here. Look at this, okay? they're here partying at this mansion.
Nick's fucking.
Nick, Clavicular, and all these. And if you look inside, it's actually not as cool as you think. And the reason why, it's very simple. It's kind of like when you read a book and then watch the movie. You always end up hating the movie because you can project onto the written word whatever you want. But then when someone chooses their interpretation, you will disagree with it. Okay? And here, if you had just said, we're going to the party mansion, we're going to have a good time, like Hugh Hefner did. Hugh Hefner wasn't recording his stuff because people can project onto it whatever they want. All right? It's for life, guys. Do not ever reveal the method. Always be your own. Always let them project onto you whatever they want to see. Do not let them. Do not give them any direction. So let's watch here. Oh, we gotta do our PBD card.
Feel free to push back. I'm comfortable with it. And then there's the lions that live in the jungle who have to go get their own meat. I'll give you an idea. And you refuse to hunt. You email me, I won't respond. You DM me, I will not respond. Not on LinkedIn, not on Twitter. Dropping the N-word.
So he had on Andrew Tate to discuss this today. Let's see what Andrew Tate had to say and how he threw everyone under the bus.
There was some extracurricular activities going on in Miami, some songs being played, some text messages, phones blowing up, and
I didn't hear what happened.
Yeah, so there was this group of guys that were hanging out playing this song in a city, Miami, where most of the clubs are owned by this community that the song was bashing, that, you know, by Kanye West, and then everybody reacted. As a matter of fact, why don't we do this, Tate, to just kick it off?
Sure.
Good to have you back on here.
I'm glad to be back with the guys.
This looks like the cigar lounge from Madrid.
Exactly. Yes, it does.
It's not. Let's pick a city we're in right now. We're right now in Barcelona right now.
Nice.
Okay, Barcelona, Florida. Somewhere in Barcelona, Florida is where we are right now doing this podcast.
Big difference between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, Vinny, right?
100%.
Okay, so why don't we do this, though? On a serious note. So let's play this clip, Rob, and then Tate will just start off with this clip, what the news is saying. And we'll come
it's on the news?
It's all over the place.
You made the fucking news?
You made the news. Channel 7 Miami. So, Rob, if you want to play this clip, go for it.
We've seen this.
People laughing and celebrating.
Catch absence on serving and
Sell anywhere.
a night. Clear prejudice this into celebrating. The mayor has.
Can pause it at this time.
I barely even see me in any of this.
Yeah.
Firstly.
Immediate denial. Immediate denial.
But I want to be very careful here because I don't want to deflect too heavily. I don't want to be blaming other people, etc. A whole bunch of songs were played that night, none of which I requested. None. I walk into a nightclub and songs are played. Unfortunately, if anything happens anywhere near me, it gets tied to my name. If someone got shot in that club, they would have said, Andrew Tate's in a nightclub where this man got shot. I didn't shoot him. I didn't pull the trigger. I don't know who the fuck he is. I was there and the song was played. The actual conversation I think that's interesting to have when it comes to this is the nature of the internet and the nature of influencing in general. Because I think
we call that a reframe. And here it's being used to somewhat gaslight.
We're living in a world now where only shock value seems to get anybody's attention for any significant period of time because everyone's dopamine receptors are completely fried. So all of these young influencers or anyone on the internet who's trying to make any name for themselves is trying to be as controversial and shocking as possible as quickly as possible. And that's why the song was played, because it gets views. That's why. I didn't play it. I didn't ask them to play it. I didn't dance. I didn't sing. In fact, the only time you see me on there is me storming out of the bus saying this is ridiculous and leaving. But I know why it was played. It was played because of this. It was played because it gets traction in a world where everybody is bored of everything all of the time. And that's why these young people are encouraged constantly to try and do the most shocking thing possible. You see this not just with this song, you see this on all their streams. They're running people over and doing retarded shit constantly. So I'm not here to make excuses for myself. I'm not here to say
immediately no, he's not making excuses. He's throwing everyone under the bus.
It wasn't me. I'm not here to, blame someone else. But it is kind of ridiculous. It does feel a bit unfair that I'm standing in a nightclub. A song comes on that I did not request. A song comes on that I do not dance to. I do not repeat the lyrics to. I just stand there. And then they want to attribute somehow the song playing to me and it all being my fault.
That's a fair argument, but I'll to the average person that's watching it, back in the days when I'm younger, I'm in a car with a guy who I get out of the military. It's December 23rd, 97. The guy's got a bunch of pot in the back of his trunk. Cops come out, and I'm in the Army, and my guy's calling me, telling me, hey, you got to figure something out. You can't be involved in something like this. Yep. So guilty by association, it's the first thing they're going to say. You hung out with these guys. When I watched the video, Andrew, with you and them, Tristan looks extremely uncomfortable, okay? And the way you were smiling...
I will interrupt to say, and I don't know if it's because PBD is from the third world background as well. I'll give you some fruit-picking wisdom, some Hispanic wisdom. Is a common refrain in Venezuela. Translation would be, create a reputation and go to sleep, all right? What that means is when you have created a reputation, either by association or through your actions, that's out there. You go to sleep, but that's out there. That's still there. So when you try to do this equivocating and throwing people under the bus, then it becomes a problem.
Because I saw a lot of...
Because then you're fighting people's perceptions. And do you want to fight people's perceptions? When you fight people's perceptions, dude, you are in a totally losing... As a master kickboxer, he should know this. He's not a master kickboxer of the mind. But you should know that when you're fighting with people's idea of you, it is much harder than fighting the actual person. Because they projected whatever they wanted onto you.
Was texting me. You and I communicate. We have conversations together. You looked extremely uncomfortable as well. You're smiling, but you're not. You know already what's going to happen. It was almost a look where I said, Tate knows what's about to happen next.
Yeah, the shock value really isn't worth it to me. I mean, I've said some shocking things, and people will believe my brand is built on shock value, but I think they're at least shocking opinions. I like to think that I'm sitting there saying, this is my opinion. You may find it shocking, but this is what I truly believe. These are my worldviews, and perhaps there's a lot of people who...
I see 112 wants clarification. We can see it here. You want to say shocking things to get famous. Don't be surprised when other people look at you and don't take you seriously. Because you have created this reputation of yourself as the shock jock, as the guy who says ridiculous things. Andrew Tate is the guy who asked if you rather have sexual relations with a transsexual person that's a 1 or a man that's a 10. And when you say shocking things like that, and then you're captured listening to, or as he says, let's take his word for it, I didn't know they were playing the song. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, then what's going to happen is that people are going to see you as the guy who says shocking things, and that's a shocking thing. So you can't be surprised and blame them when they think that you co-signed it.
Agree with me, disagree with me, but to just shock and offend purely for the purpose of shocking and offending, I think that that's something that has plagued the internet for a while, but it's getting worse and worse. And you notice it across the entire streaming world because people are struggling to get any kind of views or shake people out of apathy. And when I talk to anybody below 25 who's doing anything on the internet, their only intention is to be as shocking and therefore as offensive as possible. That's what they're sitting there thinking. How do I get everybody to panic within 3 seconds? Otherwise, they're going to scroll past me. Mm-hmm. And that's what people are doing. That's the world we live in.
Why hang out with them?
Well, I haven't seen them in a long time. It's the first time I met 2 of them. It's the first time I met Clav and Nick. I spoke to them online, but it's the first time I ever met them. I hadn't seen Sneeko in a while.
You and Nick have never met each other?
Never met.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Never met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the Braden guy, Clav, whatever his name is, he's new.
First time I ever met them. Yeah. And I have to be honest, they were nice guys when I met them. It's the first time I've spoken to them. I sat down with them, and I don't think they even put the song on. I have to guess. I think Sneeko may have put the song on, who I'd met many times before. But it was
just throwing people under the bus.
Long night. It was 6 or 7 hours in which, for 2 minutes of it, someone got a phone and put a song on. It wasn't me. And now it's all over the news. So I just think that the main reason this is being done is because shock value is what people are optimizing for with their content primarily. And then we can have another conversation entirely about why anti-Semitism is on the rise in the first place, because I have a theory about that also.
Reframe again.
And I think that the main reason anti-Semitism is on the rise across America, because there's no doubt about it that it is because young men are being told that
And then he goes off on some crap. Listen, you got to choose your friends wisely, okay? This is not a 25-year-old guy. This is like a guy who's pushing 50, Andrew Tate. These are excuses that you'd tell your mom, Mom, I'm 17, dude. I didn't know that my buddy was smoking weed. Don't think that I'm smoking weed because I'm hanging out with him. You're pushing 50, big guy. You're pushing 50. You're pushing 50. You know what's going on. Okay. But this all could have been avoided if, as I said, don't make things real. Why are you recording yourself in the nightclub to begin with? Why are you streaming that? Why are you giving people the reality of what it is? Why don't you let them project whatever they want onto it? Say this song is played and then no one records it. No one knows it was played. Did it even happen? A Bodrillard would say no, it didn't happen. But by making it real, by bringing in a couple live streams actually, you completely fucked yourself. And I would just say in particular to Andrew Tate here, I was never a fan of this guy. I found him to be insincere. I don't know about the legal issues or anything like that. But anyone, dude, and maybe it's my mind because I'm very wired for loyalty. Loyalty. In the Trump way, which is very third world. But I'll tell you the truth, man. You stand 10 toes down. You stand 10 toes down. I thought this was the badass kickboxing, escape the matrix kind of guy. But he's defending himself to the matrix, not against the matrix, to the matrix. Oh, where you see my Bugatti, don't get away, please. It's like you're not a tough guy, dude. You lost your fight. You folded after not even a week. This is more pathetic than what Erica Kirk did. Because Erica Kirk, we may have our issues with her, but she did something else. This is just the oldest guy there was the one that was quickest to fold. And I'll tell you something. This is probably how Andrew Tate has survived in his life. I'm sure that Andrew Tate, allegedly, if he was with a group of buddies throwing rocks as a kid and the cops came by, he would say, no, it wasn't me. It was all them. It was all them. This is I don't know how anyone can follow this guy, dude. This is truly pathetic. If you have friends like this, you need to get these people the fuck out of your life, bro. You know, there's two kinds of friends. There's friends that bring the shovel and there's friends that call the police. I don't know if you like friends that call the police, but, I much rather be around with people that bring the shovel. Because this is genuinely a sign of the times for America, like that the grifters will eat each other. This is a den of vipers. These people will eat each other. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing, I don't think Nick Fuentes would do it in particular because Nick Fuentes is a guy who's not afraid to say something, no matter how controversial, and stand on it. I haven't really seen him do an apology like this, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see people like Myron, these people who are just clout chasing idiots, immediately do a heel turn. These people deserve each other. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I get called to the principal's office and I blame all my friends and accept no responsibility. If you have people like this in your life, get them the fuck out. These people will poison you. Ephra says, do you agree with the saying that sometimes other people's projections influence the person identity? The person being the judge. Absolutely, Ephra. Absolutely. You know what's interesting, Ephra, is that they're starting to come out with studies that are showing that poly-market odds are actually affecting the outcomes of elections. When people see you a certain way, Ephra, you should really watch this documentary called Hypernormalization. I've mentioned it before. There's a great tidbit on Gaddafi because Gaddafi was a guy who was always on the outs with the Arabs and the Americans and the Europeans. And the Europeans accused him of leading terrorist attacks in Europe. And he was like, I didn't do this privately. But publicly, he said, fuck it, I'll claim this. This makes me look like a badass. This makes me look cool. And he became the mad dog of the Middle East because of his awareness of what other people projected onto him. So Ephra, you are completely right. It's symbiotic. It works both ways. So Ephra coming in with dude, round of applause for Ephra again. Ephra, I'm so proud of you for the Greenland prediction. Like you really blew my socks off with that one. It really was. Let's play this for Ephra, dude, for real, because Ephra, you really blew my socks off with that stuff. Shia LaBeouf clapping. This is for Ephra. This is for Ephra. We gotta do this for Ephra. Ephra, you're a genius. You're a genius. All right, everyone. We went over time a little bit here, but yeah, Andrew Tate, total pussy. Would not be surprised if you become friends with this guy, dude. Don't be surprised if he stabs you in the back. Let's see if we can catch up with some chats because we gotta get out of here. Body Domino says it's amazing how this collab kit has been pushed on me against my will. I agree. As someone from Miami, dude, that's the main thing, Bahari Dolindo, that all these guys. Look, I may have problems with them individually, but what really bothers them is how they have made this city ridiculous. Like, this city is insane now. We have the Jewish mayor of Miami Beach, who should be, dude, they gave him an excuse to not do his job. Miami Beach has horrible crime, but he's here crying about a nightclub. You know, these people made the whole city a clown show. People should be mad at the mayor of Miami Beach for not doing jack shit about crime and how the nightclubs all suck now because of the times that they close. That's what they should be mad about. But instead, he gets to coast off of this because, oh, you know, I really care about this. Total fucking, I hate the government in this city. It's terrible. 112 says, when I was in China, they took me a few of my friends out to a new plant new trees and gave shovels. And it was an extremely bizarre experience. Basically, they were showing us that you're in China now and you got shovels and we got you up here in the mountain. What the fuck were you going to do for us? That was the lesson. That's very interesting. 112. I had to go to government factories on my tour of China. My tour guide eventually was like, dude, just leave. Like, just go see whatever you want. You already know everything here. We don't have to sell you on anything. And Mr. Elu says, Mr. Beast said he'd invest in Clavicular. When do they close? Dude, the nightclubs in Miami Beach, I'm pretty sure they still close at like 5 a.m. where they should be closing at noon. And the last time I was in Miami Beach was probably for nightlife stuff about like 6 months ago. And the only nightclubs that actually had, not interesting people, that had a crowd at all were the black nightclubs and the gay nightclubs. The Latino nightclubs were ass. They were stupid. They were a quarter full. They were expensive. And everyone in there was retarded. And it's like, what is the point of this anymore? And the ones in Miami proper, don't even get me started. Those are all ass now. Like, they're all terrible. They're just full of idiots. One time I went to a nightclub recently and there was a room of people. There was a table where the people were playing Uno. And they weren't like 20. They were in their 30s playing Uno at the nightclub. Go fuck yourself. We're in a nightclub. What are you doing? You know, so they suck, man. All right, everyone. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. I appreciate the new subscribers, guys. Let me do the plugs real quick. We missed the plugs at the beginning, actually. Yeah, we definitely got to do plugs. We got the What Would a Postmodernist Do bracelet available at the coffee link below for $10. I haven't added that yet. We have the Patreon new episode tomorrow for the King Leo Movie Club. And we have the Discord, which is pretty active, man. It's pretty active. I see 112 had sent some stuff in here. I haven't been able to catch up today. I'm going to catch up on this after this. Guys, join that. Let me put in the fucking description already. What am I doing? Let me put it here so no one has to do extra work. I'll put it in the description right now. If you want to join, it's pretty fun. Mr. Elu's there. I Hate Everything is there. Everyone's in there. Dude, I was lazy today. I didn't even put hashtags in the fucking description. It's here. Save. All right. There you have the links in the description for everything. So I will see you guys tomorrow, which should be another good news day. It's been an interesting week. So, I hope everyone had a good time. I hope it wasn't too dense with the Canada stuff. I've always loved Canadian politics. British politics I'm okay on, but I like Canadian politics. It's really interesting. When you have an interesting guy like Mark Carney out there, fucking, you got to take advantage because Canada usually produces these mediocre people like Justin Trudeau. Stephen Harper was pretty cool. So, Thank you, Iron Hammer Forge. I really appreciate that. I hope it's not too, like, you know, I like to talk about the foreign policy stuff because I think it's very important, and I want to entertain and enlighten. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, man, like, comment, and subscribe. Consider becoming a member on the channel. Become the $10 member, you get the King Leo Movie Club. But if you become a $5 member on the Patreon, you get the same thing. So just do that. Appreciate you guys. I will catch up with the chat on the rewatch. I'm always rewatching to see how we can improve the show. And I hope this tie was okay, dude, because I forgot my tie fucking at my friend's house, my blue tie. So I will see you guys tomorrow.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. Change the world. My final message.